We've probably helped 20, $30 billion worth of pipeline generation for people and maybe more. I mean,
If you are in a room full of entrepreneurs who are struggling with their sales in GTM, how do you introduce yourself?
I'm the only person in this room that will deliver an empty donut box to a person just to get their attention. My dad said you can clean the toilets or you can be in sales. In my first 90 days, I wanted to quit more than I've ever wanted to quit anything in my life. I stuck it out. I sold through the 2007, 2008, 2009 recession in the United States with the banking collapse, and I became like a local legend. If I crushed every record, sales is riddled with people that mask the truth. To run a business-friendly playbook instead of just being human and authentic.
I can let you being human now by sounding exactly like a human. And you could tailor make it to 1,000 people every hour and everybody will hear a different message.
That's the only people that it actually tricks, manipulates, and sells to. Here's how I'll help you think through this. So you go buy a Gucci bag, it's $10,000, or buy the knockoff for $50. So people look at you and they think, you're rich or you're cool. When someone finds out that's a fake bag, they go, so you're just trying to look good. Okay, I see. And there's problems with that. So I see AI as the same. AI to me is a trend. I think that the word scale is a bad word. We fake our way there. We get ourselves pumped full of money with big investors. We get the connections. We have Salesforce bias one day and we pretend that somehow, we achieved that. No, you didn't.
Wow, that's profound, man. Welcome to Edbound with Dale. It's such an honor to have you with us. I was so looking forward to this. So welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Lovely. Now, Dale, you run this company called the Sales Rebellion. I mean, you're a founder and you're one of the most sought out sales training and coaching ninja, I would say. But let me hear it from you. If you are in a room full of entrepreneurs who are all struggling with their sales in GTM, how do you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I typically just tell people my name is Dale Dupree. I'm the most normal guy that you've ever met in your life. But I am the only person in this room that will deliver an empty donut box to a person that will not respond to my phone calls or my emails just to get their attention. And I think that defines very simply who I am as a seller. I'm very creative. I'm not afraid to be a little risky and hurt some feelings at times, like out of love, and ultimately just from the place of truth and honesty. I think a lot of sales is riddled with people that are willing to mask the truth and to tell a little white lie or to run a business-friendly playbook instead of just being human and authentic. Yeah, that would be it. That would be exactly how I would tell everybody what I do and who I am.
Wow. That's so well crafted, man. I wish I could do something like that. So let's hear, what should I think about to come up with a intro like that? That's so different and fresh.
Probably every time I say that is just from the heart. So probably like if you've been around me like a dozen times where I've done an intro similar to that, you would say, wow, like even though it's very much the same, it has a completely different ring and tone to it. You use different words. I think that just comes from a place of existing inside of this and not just like faking my way through it. So I think a lot of people kind of strip themselves ultimately in the business world, whether they're entrepreneurs or they're salespeople, or they're in marketing or they're in finance. I think people script themselves. They say, this is the standard. I need to talk like this. I need to mention these buzzwords. I need to kind of hit on these few things. And then they limit themselves. I personally am like willing to sound stupid. I personally am willing to flub my words a little bit. I'm not really interested in being plastic at all to any capacity. And so I don't guard myself because of that. And I just speak from the heart.
Wow, that is powerful. And I mean, reading about your background, I was super impressed with this label Copier Warrior persona, and the way I don't know if you've been asked that before. I mean, your advocacy of building a genuine human connection kind of stands out. So would you like to highlight that a little bit? How did that kind of came about, and what's your thought around that?
Yeah, I didn't want to be boring in that career that I had. I started in the sales space in B2B in copier selling, door to door, lots of cold calling over the phone. And prior to that, I played in a heavy metal band signed to a major record label and was touring all over the United States. And what's interesting about that is that I didn't make the transition willingly. I was kind of forced into it because of circumstances like unseen stuff that just you don't have much control over. But instead of like spiraling out of control with what was happening, I said, no, I'm just gonna get a job. And it's funny too because I actually called my dad who owned a copier company and said, hey, I'd love a job. And I wrote up this like resume, which I didn't have. I didn't have a resume. It was like played in a band, that's kind of cool. And so I wrote this like dissertation with it that was like 7 pages of like why you should hire me. And my dad laughed and just said, like, dude, you can have one of two jobs. You can clean the toilets and the office, or you can be in sales. And a couple of thoughts what came to mind. I was like, does he equate sales to the janitor? Like, is it really that bad of a job? And secondly, I was like, I don't want to clean the toilets, so I'll do the sales thing. Maybe he's just tested. So I chose sales in my first like 90 days. I wanted to quit more than I've ever wanted to quit anything in my life. And I stuck it out. I sold through the 2007, 2008, 2009 recession in the United States with the banking collapse and the bailouts for, the big auto manufacturers. And it was wild. I mean, we lost $600,000 in revenue overnight at my father's company. And I was basically surviving every day and helping this company to survive. There's a lot of stuff that's in there, such as like my father never firing one person in the midst of this collapse, and stopped taking paychecks and helped out his customers that couldn't pay their bills and just like did the right thing. So there was a lot of morality and good ethics happening that I was being taught. But at the same time, I was also catching on to this idea that my dad was different. His company was different. And that really affected me. And I sat down a couple years later after I started my career in copier sales. I was like, I think I'm too much like everyone else. I think I need to break free from whatever's been holding me back. And I came up with the persona of the Copier Warrior. And in 2010 timeframe, I rolled it out. And by 2012 or 13, that thing was on fire. Like if I walked in your front door, you recognized me. You were like, "Oh, it's the Copier Warrior." And I mean, you didn't even sometimes you didn't weren't even a decision maker. You were just a person that was in accounting and that just saw my stuff passed around the office because people thought it was insane that I made the type of marketing that I did and I presented myself the way that I did. And I became like a local legend, if you will, kind of like folklore, even to an extent. Like this is a real person. No, it's not. And I crushed every record in the books. My father got bought. His company got bought in the process of me rebuilding it. Like everybody wanted a piece, and he negotiated as such an awesome contract where like I wasn't under an NDA. Or a non-compete. I wasn't under a non-compete, and I didn't have to sign any kind of commitment forms. So I just basically like he just was like, "Hey, here you go work for this new company." And from there, my story is that I made millions selling copy machines as the Copier Warrior at that organization, and went on to become their vice president of sales. We grew them from 8-9 million to 25 million in like 4 years. It was insane. And then they got acquired by a $500 million company because of the massive growth that they had. And I went on to work for Xerox corporate and just kept everybody wanted the copy. Are you going to do your brand over here? Yeah, I'll do my brand over there. It's cool. Don't worry. Everybody
Whoa.
wanted a piece of it. And to this day, people still like some people are out there calling themselves like the technology warrior or the toner titan, or they like everybody kind of has
Yeah.
like something that they've pulled from that inspiration if they're willing and daring to do it, right? Because that's a tough thing. Like imagine I was made fun of, ridiculed, told I was stupid, unprofessional. I mean, everything you could possibly imagine, but I ignored it and said, yeah, but the people like this. And I don't care what other individuals inside of my space, what their opinion is of me. I care what people think and the experience that they deserve and want to have that I serve. And I just kept coming back to that place. And so I made TV commercials. I made marketing print material that you would never even comprehend in some instances. And then I came up with concepts like the coffee stained letter that we sell at the Sales Rebellion, or the crumpled letter that we use at the Sales Rebellion, or the empty donut boxes or empty to go boxes, pizza boxes. Like we have so many concepts at TSR that I actually used individually myself when I sold copy machines. And they are the things that literally set my success on fire. I went from cold calling people all freaking day long, trying to just get one person to say hi, and, or even to say, please stop calling me, just like met with silence. It's very similar to the year 2025 and what I see sellers going through right now, to literally having people like when I was in the parking lot pulling out of their offices, call my cell phone and say, come back inside. It was a drastic change overnight. And so I bought in. I bought into the belief that it's not about being different. It's about giving a better experience than everybody else. It's about belief in your community. It's about this idea that not every buyer is a liar or a terrible person or somebody that owes you something, but instead just to treat people normal, to give them the right type of experience as well too, because I think there's a good and a bad to that you have to be careful of. So I met people where they were, and in the process of doing those things, I created the art of sales for myself, and the science kind of became null and void in the process of that, where the art took over. And I just enjoyed success, unlike most people get to experience at a very young age. That set me up for being 40 years old and running a company now for almost 7 years. I'll be 7 years in March of this coming year, 20, and enjoying ultimate freedom, loving my family, being able to contribute to my
Wow.
community. And here I am, man, sitting with you.
That's some story, man. That's some story. And $11 billion in pipeline generated for customers. Is that right? I mean, is that number right?
Yes.
Whoa.
I think it's more really at this point. That number was based off of us tracking our with our VPs of sales that we worked with, or owners of companies that we worked with, us tracking that number based on like their reports, and then also our individual students. So we think it's more ultimately because like that was a probably about a year ago now anyway. But even then we thought it was more because, man, there's so many people out there that have done things like bought our
Yeah.
crumpled letter for $24, but then never told us how much revenue they pulled from it. And sometimes though we'll get a message from somebody that goes, hey, I owe you one. I just closed the largest sale of my life. And, they don't always tell us like what is the revenue and everything along those lines. And we don't pry for that information. But I believe that what we've done from a contact marketing standpoint, and how we've supported just the community in general and not just our clients, we've probably helped, with 20, $30 billion worth of pipeline generation for people, and maybe more. I mean, we've heard stories of companies adapting our methodology without ever even spending a dime on our playbooks, just kind of like taking from our free content and doing what we do that way. So
Wow. I mean, these are unbelievable numbers. I want to learn about this playbook, and I think I relate with it so much. Obviously, I haven't had a run like you've had and this crazy story, but I have worked as a door-to-door salesman in the UK. And, being an Indian, I was selling door to door in Scotland. You can't, I mean, racism is like, some of those regions can be really harsh for someone who comes with a brown skin color. I don't know if that sounds normal, but it was like I had to be so brave when I went on to knock the next door and going door to door selling telephone lines. So I know what you're talking about, and I think as someone who's done sales, I think there's so much to learn here. So let me begin with the question that I've been thinking about since I knew that you were going to be on. You mention about human connection, and you say that automation, AI is possibly not the best way to scale. I want to know more about this. I mean, this is such a contrarian thought. Have you heard about Clay and the kind of fandom they have, and what people claim? How do you place this?
yeah, if you're talking about like automation and AI, like in
Yeah.
comparison and contrast to authenticity and human behavior, is that what we're getting at here?
Yeah, I mean, AI can let you being human now by sounding exactly like a human, a crying human, a laughing human. It's up to you. How do you want this human to be?
Sure.
And you could tailor make it to 1,000 people every hour, and everybody will hear a different message based on what they just did on LinkedIn. Like
Sure.
how do you place it? Wi-
Here's how I'll help you think through this. You know the difference between a knockoff and the original, right? So let's take
Yes.
an example like a Gucci bag. So you go buy a
Yeah.
Gucci bag, it's $10,000, or you can buy the knockoff for $50. And what happens though when people, two things, what is the reason that you're buying the knockoff bag in the first place? So what is the intrinsic value that you receive from using the knockoff bag? And then ultimately, what is the extrinsic value? Maybe it's status. Like, so people look at you and they think you're rich or you're cool, but those are surface level reactions. Those don't do anything for you. They don't create more success. They are a false premise. They are not real. Okay. Additionally to that, though, I would say too, is like when someone finds out that that's a fake bag, they think differently of you as well too. They go, so you're just trying to look good. Okay, I see. And there's problems with that on both sides. The judgment that comes from it, and ultimately like that person's heart, and then ultimately like the reason why you're doing it, right? There's two. So I see AI as the same. AI to me is a trend. People think I'm crazy when I say that. There's a difference between a trend and a fad, I would say also. A fad is something that fades away and dies. A trend is something that is done one way that evolves and changes. And I'm telling you right now that when people figure out that they're on the phone with someone that's fake, they change their mind. Unless they're a salesperson or a business owner that goes, I could do this for my business. That's the only people that it actually tricks, manipulates, and sells to, is the people that go, ooh, I could use this in my business, which is a totally ridiculous thought to me in the first place. So a regular consumer doesn't hear that you're fake and then go, oh, whatever, I'll trust you anyway. We already have a problem with trust with normal people. And so, and people have already lost trust and faith in something like AI. They watch a video and then they start telling their friends, oh my God, I saw this video of this person doing this thing. And and then one person in the group goes, that's a fake video. And they go, nah, and then they show them the proof that it's a fake video. And then everyone in that room, not just the person that experienced it, but everyone in that room goes, ooh, that kind of scary. That kind of sucks. I don't like that. And that's the trend. That is the trend of AI, is that it's going to be the thing that all of us use, all of us do, and that we disconnect essentially our human self from business, from social, from entertainment, and just rely on AI. And it ain't going to happen, man, because there's this inherent human behavior in all of us that is the trust factor. We all want to trust it. We all want to believe that it's real because we need it to actually be the truth. And as soon as it shows that it's fake, we run like the dickens. We want nothing to do with it. So the thought for me is that these trendy companies that are saying things like just use AI to get everywhere that you need to go will fail ultimately over time. But I do love like we're Clay users. So we have like a two-step process. So like we use Clay to identify, let's just say, foundational data, if you will. But then we have like a human effect that comes into play. The art of that same data is scrutinized by real people. And I'm telling you right now that we find plenty of flaws in the way that data is provided and given to us as soon as a real person gets involved. And I don't want to go into details, right? But I'm a fan of things like Clay. They help my business. But I think that this institutionalized thought that at this stage that business cannot operate without AI being fully integrated to its max capacity, to me, is insane. AI is a superpower, as my man Morgan Ingram says, for people that know how to use it effectively. And that's the bottom line. Well, hopefully that wasn't too much of a rant and that made some sense.
It made a lot of sense. And I mean, I love the point that you do use Clay. And I know you kind of possibly get your feed off Apollo, or, I mean, are you just connecting it with your data providers, getting the information and maybe looking at signals, qualifying them? Are you using it till that scale or only looking at data?
I don't think that personally, I don't think that the intent data, I think that most of that is smoke and mirrors. Because I think about my own habits, think about your own habits as a buyer. Like you see something shiny and you're like, oh, what's that? You want to learn a little bit more about it, but it doesn't mean that you've made a decision to buy it. You're just kind of clicking around. And then all of a sudden you're getting phone calls from people going, hey, I saw you downloaded this thing. Can we set up a demo? And I'm like, well, there's kind of no point in that. I'm just looking. And of course, the salesperson hears that and is coached that's an objection. That person's buying. They're talking to 7 other people. You need to set that appointment right now. And it's insanity. The evolution of sales over the last 5 years is unlike any evolution we've seen in such a short amount of time. And no one is catching on to that. That just because someone clicked it, just because someone shows some type of intent in their actions on the internet means that everyone sees the internet as non-consequential. I can click on this post, I can look at this picture, I can
Hmm.
watch this video, and it's not consequential to me because it's not real. And it's in my personal private space, and no one can see it except for this one company that's tracking all their website visits and gets my IP and finds my phone number and calls me, right? And that is aggressive behavior. And so I think intent data is still, to me, it's still smoke and mirrors. There might be a little bit of truth to the intent. And there might be some, I think everything works, right? So there's still you're gonna have success stories. You're gonna have people that are like, yeah, we got intent data about this person. We
Hmm.
tried it, but look, like, just like anything else, it's flawed as hell, and it's not going to work the way that people think it will work. And it's going to be a very small amount of the time, unless you are selling iPhones, like
Hmm.
something that people are literally daily looking for. It's just not going to work that way, right? Instead, you're going to be a plan B, a plan C, a plan D on somebody's, hey, maybe one day we'll look at this other product or software. So how we use Clay is we go in and we say, hey, we want to find this persona geographically. We want to look here.
Yeah.
We tell it things, and then it goes and it scrapes, it looks. Sometimes we even give it examples of existing accounts. We say, here's the customer's ICP
Yeah.
that we're coaching or
Lookalikes.
working with, and just hit us with some lookalikes. And then again, like a lot of time though, that you got to do another iteration of that and another
Yeah.
iteration of that. There's a lot of work involved still.
Yeah. Can I pick your brain on a case from what
Yeah.
you just said? Like, I think I would love to do that. Let's say I was selling cloud optimization services. There are a lot of these companies that say, I'll save you 20% on your cloud spend, right? I have identified from Clay there are 1,000 people that I want to target, and that's the data. You rightly said, now they clicking on my ad to download something or reading a report or, a lead magnet is inconsequential. Smokes and mirrors. Wonderful. How do I go about it in today's time? Like, because if I do cold, I think that's is just blind and people are not opening it. I mean, out of 1,000 people, it's just super tough. So what's the strategy you're going to take there?
Okay. So here's how we look at it. Okay. Is first off, is like if I had 1,000 people I wanted to do business with, I'd play the long game, and I would say, okay, I'm going to give these people the right kind of experience. I'm going to send crumpled letters in the mail. I'm going to send pre-burnt letters in the mail with some marshmallows. Hey, roast this letter when you're done, and get some s'mores going. Hang out with your family. At least I gave you something today, not just a pitch, I would start giving people experiences. I would use direct mail immediately, and it didn't matter. It doesn't matter to me like where you are. Like we send stuff overseas. We send it in the US. We send it just across the border. It always works. It gets to people. They laugh. They joke. We're working on a $17 billion company right now. They're an international organization. They're freaking humongous. They got a lot of employees. They got world headquarters in the US. They got also locations across overseas with decision makers that we need to get in front of. We sent out 13 packages. That's all we've sent so far. We've had over 46, I believe, is the number, unique views through the QR code that's in these touch pieces. We've had somewhere in the ballpark of 77 total encounters or visits to the page. So multiple times people have gone to this page. They're also distributing it amongst the company because we're looking at IP addresses all over the world outside of the two places that we've sent all these objects. And now this person knows who we are. They know we exist. And when the time is right and they want to buy something, they'll come to us. They'll say, "Hey, great marketing. We're ready now." Now for your product, I think it's a little bit different because your product could be viewed as a commodity to an extent,
Oh,
and
yes.
so ultimately, like it could be purchased tomorrow if somebody wanted to, and so. I think that's the beauty of what you're selling, because you could do the same concept, stay top of mind with people, but it would be kind of short that sales cycle would be. Even you wouldn't have people calling you a year from now going, "Hey, thanks for all that stuff you sent me. I'm ready to do something." A lot of people would probably like, they take the journey of starting with the experience to heading to what it is that you're selling, to learn a little bit more about you, to go, maybe I give
Yeah.
this person a shot. And if there's some email and some phone calls behind that, there's a likelihood that they'll connect when you say, "Hey, it's the guy that sent you the trash can in the mail. Hey, I just wanted to see if you got it and what you thought." And instead of, "Hey, can I have 30 seconds to tell you why I called?" Like, everybody says that stuff now. Like, the problem with like committing to a motion in an experience in a cold
Hmm.
call and an email pitch and a title is that, like, you don't have a lot of flexibility of giving people anything but a very monotonous and similar experience than everybody else. But even like if every single person was sending a crumpled letter around the world, it's such a unique experience that even if people go, I've heard about this, they'll say it in
Hmm.
a way where they also, the same way, in my opinion, and through our experience, this isn't just my opinion. This is what we've heard people tell us. We have heard people tell us, you'll never believe this. I called my contact at this massive retailer, Kohl's, right? The big retailers. I called my contact there. They said, you know what's funny? I've actually gotten one of these before, but I love it. I think it's super intentional. I'm grateful that you made it very personalized in the messaging that you put inside of the letter. What's up? You're like, how can I help you? And to me, it's this idea that like, even if sometimes things are the same, like you see the new iPhone on multiple people and then you buy one for yourself, right? You don't go, I can't believe all these people have iPhones. That's crazy. You
Yeah.
go, I
Yeah.
wonder why people have these iPhones, right? And I think that that's what we do by using the strategies that we do and the go-to-market concepts that we do through direct mail. We're also taking it back to like the authentic approach of just being human again and speaking to people. And if I'm also like, if I'm posting content, if I'm directly sending people to messages through my LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever my prospects live, and I'm not pitching, I'm just being experiential. I'm saying things like, hey, sales guy here, you can delete me if you need to, but I just figured I'd be like an option B whenever the time might come. I provide, some content for free on some of these topics if you ever just wanted to like steal my ideas. But if it's okay, could we connect? Like some simple messaging, even that just like is so different than when everybody wants something. Everybody thinks they're deserved or owed something. Everybody is trying to sell something and no one's buying. So that's just kind of how I
Yeah.
perceive the whole concept.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I came across this quote recently, which was like, being different is better than being better. And I think I kind of loved it. And you're kind of echoing that thought that, be standing out with your messaging and, that kind of just lands. You also talk about scaling for the sake of scaling. And you mentioned that, don't do that, like build the human connection. So, I mean, when you're using all this clay data and stuff, how do you scale a campaign? Like, let's say you have 1,000 people. This is a case where my universe is possibly 1,000 clients who could potentially buy what I'm selling. What if it's larger? Like, how do you scale? Because, like human to human connection, I'll have to automate, I'll have to scale. What's your suggestion for a company like that?
Yeah, I think that the word scale it's a bad word in my opinion, and I think we've misrepresented it in entrepreneurialism and in business. That like also, so people say like, well, how do I scale a crumpled letter? I'm like, you don't, and that's the beauty of it, and that's why people only send hundreds and not thousands
Hmm.
because it works to a capacity that is much lesser of an effort in regards to what you can follow up with, what you can track. And because of that, it's a blessing on you because it makes you more intentional with the way that you reach out to people. And we got an email, I'll read it to you. We got an email from a really big company. They're a giant credit union. And I'm just going to read you this email. It says, geez, come on. It says, hello to your amazing marketing team. Extremely creative, incredibly creative drops. And this is no false hopes of engagement. Well, I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you taking the time to give us this experience. If we happen to need you, we'll reach out, but we're very happy with who we currently have, and you can take us off your list. How many people out there get a rejection email like that? Like, that's unheard
Yeah.
of. Like, give me that rejection. Like, let's start a trend where we say, like, here's my greatest rejection. And then let people read it and go, that was a rejection. That's crazy that we even labeled that a rejection. I mean, who comes at you with like, yo, this is incredible marketing? We just have something currently. We're tied in. I guarantee you they have a friend, a buddy, someone they've been doing business with for 30 years. They're afraid of change. And they just felt compelled to give us a moment of clarity of like, hey, this is awesome, but you're barking up the wrong tree. And that's sales, man. That's every day, right? So the more that I can get that response though out of the 1,000 people,
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
am scaling because I'm like, if I can get 150 responses I never would have gotten before, then I'm scaling. It's just like not in a way that people desire or want. Like I think we're obsessed with this idea of like becoming unicorns or billion-dollar companies. and we fake our way there. We get ourselves pumped full of money with big investors. We get the connections. We have Salesforce bias one day and we pretend that somehow, like we achieved that. No, you didn't. You got into the right circles. You got around the right people. They wanted to make a lot of money off you too. You're not the only one benefiting from this anymore. And that's the story. And no one provides that context. Instead, they go, 15 years ago in my garage, I started this business. It's like, yeah, you sold your soul is what you did. Like, and I've had those opportunities in my own business. I've had the chance to just like kind of be done and like be the face for a little
Mm,
while and do
yeah.
my thing and then just cash out. And man, I'm on a mission to change the world, dude. So you can't stop belief like that. You can't stop purpose like that. You can put me into debt. You can, all my stuff could stop working tomorrow. But my passion, my belief system, the way that I see my life, my business, and what I'm accomplishing is completely different than everybody else, which is why I can say very confidently that scaling is a bad word and that you can still achieve. I have watched people make millions of dollars of their own personal wealth yearly using our systems. That feels good,
Wow.
man. That like, how is that not like acceptable, right? Oh, it's not $1 billion. Well, maybe that's not what God wants for you. Maybe you should be okay with going from making $25,000 a year to 750. Maybe you should be okay with that. Maybe you should be able to look at that and say, this is sustainable. This is healthy. I get to serve people. I'm having fun with what I'm doing. I'm hiring folks and giving them
Mm.
purpose, joy, intentionality through their work. Like we just don't have these conversations, right? Because this is all fluffy Skittles and rainbows. And to me, like that's the travesty of business and why I started a rebellion.
Wow. That's profound, man. I love it. I mean, I feel the passion even with the patchy network at times. It's coming through, man, across the seas. So, no, super awesome. I have a question around your approach to building a community. You speak about a mission, giving people kind of something to fight for. And you speak about emphasizing how servant leadership in sales also works and how do you build a community for your prospects and clients. What's your playbook around that? How would you suggest a company to build that playbook?
Yeah, well, we give the resources, right? So like we have something called the Rebel Covenant that we just launched. I've been trying to figure out exactly what I'm supposed to be doing with this company for 6.5 years. I just want people to know that like I've been given grace, throughout this process and gifted mercy throughout the build of what I'm doing. I've had tons of students. I've worked directly with companies. I've coached. I've actually done the selling. I mean, I've done kind of a lot of stuff to this point, but we just firmly put in place this idea of what our product offering is, which is the Rebel Covenant. It's an oath and a promise to yourself, your community, your family, your business to come in and run the Rebel system. We're providing for people in that real hands-on tangible playbooks for the outbound, but also for like when someone goes all the stuff that people have like really mediocre playbooks around in the first place, like send 17 emails with this tell somebody, put it the subject line chicken soup, and they'll open that email. And it's like, oh, Jesus, F off with that stuff. It's like, it's such a crazy thought to me what people are doing to get attention. And instead, like, here's a real authentic way to be human with people and to get them through your sales cycle, get them through your process while also focusing on the bigger picture and not just like becoming desperate to hear back from somebody. Right. So just a glimpse of kind of what we're provided in there. We've got live coaching, the whole 9 yards. And like really the goal is to give people these playbooks is the idea. But you could go to the Rebel Arcade, which is on our website, and buy any of the playbooks that we have. We freely sell them. We're not afraid of like even having them at a low monetary value, quite frankly, because again, like you just talked about, like the fire and the passion that I have for this, the purpose behind what I'm doing. And I want to give that purpose to other people. When somebody buys a $98 playbook and they start running the sequence, and on the third touch, they get in touch with two of the largest clients that they've never been able to hear from for like 7 years of selling, it changes the way you think. And with
Mm,
that, everything in your business evolves and develops differently as well too. There's still failure in this. I just want to like make sure that everybody hears me say that might be listening to this. There is plenty of failure in this. And really like what's important about understanding that is that or hearing that is to understand that this is just as hard because there's a lot of effort, there's a lot of letdown just the same, and you're doing it way different than you were before, which the way you were before will always be the most convenient and the easiest. we take the hard route. But I didn't sell $1 million in copiers every year, several $1 million in copiers every year, and make millions of dollars because I wanted to be mediocre like everybody else. That I wanted to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. So I think like when you ask a question, I think, well, we exist to help people build those playbooks because it's not easy to do, but ultimately it's about more than just a playbook. It's about the purpose behind like, well, why do you want it to begin with, and
Hmm.
what will you accomplish with these things? Like there's just more to it, right? Is the idea behind what we're building. I think people have to see past like, how do I get a quick playbook or build something that will be the system that I need to succeed? I think people need to come back to the start of like, well, why haven't you been successful yet the way that you want to? Let's start there. Like, let's ask the hard questions. Like, let's do things that are
Hmm.
make us uncomfortable, and then get to the roots of, all right, cool. Here's how I think we should rebuild the foundations, and here's how we move your business forward. And I think that that's the right kind of consultancy too. I always think back to my father and when he was running his business, and I got to glimpse into that for a couple of years when I worked with him. And I always think about how he would sit down with the employees and say, what could I do better? And because he was meant that and he was such an honest and integral person, they would tell him. And sometimes it hurt to hear what they would say. And he loved that pain though, because he knew it would help him to be better. And I think that a rebellion begins there because I just think a lot of us are using the washed up and inundated ideas of everybody else with our fingers crossed that we'll get $1 million check in 5 to 6 years to sell our business. And it happens, plenty of people. But then what, man? Like then what? What's the legacy
Hmm.
that you're building and all of that? Where are you headed to after that? Like what if you did get in touch with like the example I just gave, a customer, a prospect that's taken you 7 years to talk to? And what if they become somebody that's like engaged in your life? What if they become somebody that grabs dinner with you and your family every once in a while? What if they become somebody that shows up at your funeral because of the impact that you made on their life and they on yours? What if we just looked at business a little bit different than everybody else? What would happen? And that's the thing I challenge when I hear, the question of like, how do I build what you're suggesting? I think it's a lot harder, and that ultimately it comes with this commitment to a community that's going to surround themselves around you, hold you accountable, and bring you to that place of ultimate glory that you seek to achieve and the freedoms that you want from running and building your own business.
Whoa, that's, I mean, I've asked this question to many people around the world, and I think this is so different. What you're saying is so humane, and I mean, the connection that you could build this way. But I think a lot of people, who were born in the 2000s possibly think of a community on Facebook or Instagram. I mean, if you know what I mean, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it's not easy to sit with people in the same room, look them in the eye and solve their problems, and they solve yours. And let me be honest, it's something that's becoming a rare art, and it's going to get tougher and tougher. But I hear you, man. I completely connect with what you're saying. Now, you just spoke briefly about this rebel framework, and I had this question around, the rebel invasion framework. You tell salespeople change the game. Could you walk us through maybe the methodology a little bit?
sure. So we have like our system is a few modules. Essentially, we look at foundations. So we talk about habits, we talk about rhythms, belief systems, routines. We talk about like what's important, all the way down to like a sales rep should know their comp plan. A business owner should know their profit margins. And mostly because like that's what helps us to serve people better is if I know exactly like what I'm getting from this, then I can put more effort into it to help the people that I seek to change the lives of through what I provide for them, whether it's software, whether it's a tangible
Yeah.
good, whatever it is. So we start kind of in that area. We take people down uncomfortable routes and we help them with the belief system. And then ultimately, like, what does the day to day look like on a weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, and then like a long term look? Like, what do I want? If I did this for the next 5 years, where should I expect that it takes me? And just really projecting more than just like 12 months or 24 months even, but 5, 10, 15, 25 years, right? So from there, we take people into this idea of, well, everything starts after the belief in that foundation to build out of the foundation. It starts with prospecting. You live and die and breathe by the way that you prospect. That's is that simple in any kind of business building. A coffee shop has to prospect on a daily basis. They have to get more people in
Mm,
here consistently in here.
yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
prospects all the time, man. No matter how you think your business works, I promise you prospect. I promise you're in sales, whether you know it or not, right? So we take people down that. We call it the reason theory, to radically educate and share one's narrative. The one, though, in that sentence being the people you seek to serve? What is the narrative of your community, of what the people that you're trying to sell something to
Mm,
believe? What is it that the story they want to tell? Now, we take people from there into this idea of a living ecosystem we call the living pipeline, which is like, don't just churn and burn through, 1,000 accounts over 90 to 120 days and say, well, these guys didn't respond, let's move on. But like, let's build something worthwhile that, again, is like lifelong and lasts, and you spend 20 years cultivating. And then we take people into our sales system, which is the invasion process. INVASIO, and it's an acronym. It's a little bit
mm.
non-traditional. We have like the art form of sales in there, to your typical like pain funnels and sales systems that people preach in the mainstream. We just have a little bit of a different perspective on it, but for the most part, it's very structured in regards to just, here are the things that are really, they're consequential to the sales process if you don't perform them well. But everything is infused with creative approaches. So how we communicate, how we listen, how we respond, what we present, it's all infused with this creative approach. And that's what the rebellion is all about. People come to us for creativity. That's what they do. And we give it to them in all areas and facets. We have a couple other modules inside of the system that we teach as well too, but ultimately, that's about the lifestyle of a rebel and the ultimate commitment
Mm.
of a rebel more than anything. It goes beyond the sales process in those instances.
And how do people get to experience this whole thing? Is it available online? Do they buy all the books? Someone living, most of the people listening to us are, not only in the US. So what's the best way to be a part of this and to learn all of this?
Well, I mean, the best way to really immerse yourself into rebellion at this stage, especially, is to consider joining the covenant, which is our community, our paid community. But we also have the Rebel Refuge, which is a free community for people that might be skeptical or just don't have the funds. It's not like it's a bank breaker to be in our paid community, but it is, it's a commitment for sure that we're asking people to lean into. But you can also just go to my like LinkedIn feed and just literally just consume the content that I post, and I promise you'll get ideas from that over the course of 7 to 10 days of reading stuff. And if you put them into action, you'll get results from those things as well too. So I think there's a few ways to really get involved, but ultimately it's up to the person. We want to meet people where they are, and whatever situation that they're in. And so we've got a couple different options in that case. And we're our goal, and the way that we look habitually at the way that we run our business is, how do we get people believing more in the existence and identity of what a rebellion is inside of their business. And so because of that, we make it accessible to an extent. So
Yeah, no, I think we're going to publish the website where they can find this community to join. And I think that will be a fantastic idea. A lot of people would want to be a part of this. I mean, your passion comes across. If we could get a dose of this more, I think everybody could change their game. That's what I am getting from when I'm kind of talking about this with you. So what is the website that they should reach out to? Where do they find this program?
sure, yeah, you can just go to salesrebellion.com, and when you're in there, it's pretty easy to find. There's a couple ways that it shows up, right? But if you're just in there looking, you'll find it, I promise you. But it like, we have it identified in the website under like individual training options. So like, if you're an individual and you click on the training, then you go to individual sellers, or what we identify as ultimate rebellion right now inside of we feel like that'll pull people in more than they would like covenant, because a lot of people don't know what the covenant is yet, right? They don't identify that. So we just call it the
Yeah.
ultimate rebellion. And a lot of people click that button without even knowing what's in there. They click that button because it just attracts them, but then they get two options. They get to learn a little bit about what we do. We send it physical mail to people inside of this community as well too. So we actually, like, we practice what we preach, right? So, and we also have access to in-person events like through those memberships, depending on if you pick the higher level or not. So there's a shift in the narrative of getting back to the basics, getting back to in-person, putting people in front of each other. Yeah, and that's where we're headed with our own business, not just in the way that we're preaching our business. So yeah, so head to salesrebellion.com, and you can find most of the content that I've talked about on this call, and the paid community, the free community, everything that your little heart desires for rebellion's sake.
I think we're going to invite everybody, and we'll send a lot of people there because I want to be a part of it. So I'm going to check out right after we finish the session. Now, I believe that what you've said makes so much sense, and we could literally relook at the way we approach sales and GTM. If you could redesign the modern B2B sales funnel systems, what would you change? What would you keep? what's your take and suggestion for us?
Man, I would just tell everybody to throw out the concept of like a sales funnel in general. I would just I would encourage people to like reset, let go, release this need to like be in control over sales. Like no one ever really ultimately was. And those who had a lot of defined success that was predictable is because of trends. And that's all it is, man. Like here's a new trend. It hits a little different. People are a little bit more curious about it, but it always comes back to like the idea of like the raw emotion of the human. Curiosity is exactly what that one is.
Hmm.
And then now in the year 2025, man, there's a predictable revenue. Like I don't care what people think or say. Like I state this all the time, and I don't think there's been predictable revenue for quite some time, in my opinion. It's just been, that people have, when you do something consistently, you'll yield results. Are they ultimately the results that you really want, though? And where are they taking you again, 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road? The thing that's never stopped is being audacious. The other thing that's
Hmm.
never stopped is working, I should say, is being genuinely curious, being a servant leader. These have always been the trend. They just have become unpopular because they're commitments that are harder. They're commitments that take longer. They're commitments that are
Hmm.
more pure and true. And we as humans, we tend to go toward the things that are the opposite of all the stuff I just said. So that, to me, like
Yeah.
that's the juice, that's the tea. Like get rid of the funnel. Like I would get rid of it. I would start giving people better experiences. When someone says you should use video, I'd say, well, how do I use it different? When someone says you should make cold calls on the phone, I'd say, well, how do I lead into them different? I would just continually ask myself, how can I buck the trends, the system, and the failure that it has for me? I don't want to be a part of that failure. Instead, I want to go fail in a different way on my own where I actually gain knowledge, actually make an impact on people, actually find out a solution for what it is that I'm trying to build in the first place instead of all the surface level, like, oh, well, you need to change this. Oh, well, you need to change that. But like, real, like hearing from a person going, hey, I'm pretty sure you're the guy that sent me that giant trophy of a goat in the mail that said that I was the greatest of all time of ignoring salespeople. Yeah. And you go, yeah, that was me. And they go, that was the greatest marketing I've ever seen in my life. And then say, I just can't give you my business. And then say, and here's why, to build the context, to help you understand like what is the real gap? What is the real stop, in your system, in your cycle, and not just like someone saying we're happy, we're in a current contract. Like those are surface level objections, right? Like how do we get to the roots, to the meat and potatoes of like why our business isn't making progress in the first place? And I think it's all about the experience we give to get that feedback that we need in order to just like take it to that next level.
Hey, Dale, I mean, these are so powerful thoughts that you're just talking about. I mean, I get it. Like this is hitting me in so many different ways because the shortcuts. I have had people on this podcast where they've done like $2 million in 5 weeks, 7 weeks, 9 weeks, and I get it what you're saying. The race to get what everybody is talking about. It's just such a pressure. I think one of the big questions I have, and that's possibly my last question that I really think a lot of people are thinking about right now. You're talking about being different in your approach on all, in almost all the touch points, your thought about how do you treat funnels, throw them out. I mean, how do we start rebranding, rethinking all of these pieces? Is there a, the modern question would be, is there a GPT that I refer to? Is there a method that I follow? Is there a breakfast, the coffee shop that you're sitting in? What's the secret? How do I do it?
Yeah, there's no secret. I hate to break it to everybody. But there is absolutely an instruction manual, but the instruction manual is built by you, and it starts with saying no to everything that you're currently doing. It's also about saying no to the way that people use the
Oh.
traditional systems. It's about saying yes to the risk, saying yes to the discomfort, saying yes to trying something that makes you feel a little squirmish on the inside. It makes you wonder, oh my God, what if they don't like this thing I'm sending them? Or what if they don't read this email the way
Mm.
I hope? These are important emotions to feel. That there's no secret here. There's no secret, and there's no shortcut. That it really is just about being willing. It's about being willing. And yeah, for sure, there's a playbook to all this. Like I started a company to to teach it, but I like just as I started my own business doing these things, so can anyone else, is the thought process. That we exist to be that shoulder that people can lean on, have for accountability, and to ultimately take off from and look back and say, thank God for that chapter of my life, and now I am where I am today without full dependence, like we're some kind of cult, that wants you to stick around till your last breath and pay us money, right? We want to build ultimate freedom for people. And if people hear that and they think to themselves, oh my God, that's exactly what I want, then you probably found a home in the rebellion. But again, like you're going to come in and you're not going to go, wow, listen to all these secrets. What you're going to go is, man, that is some truth I needed to hear. Man, that hurts. Man, that makes me uncomfortable. And that's the secret, right? The real secret is that there is no secret. It's been dormant in you this whole time. And we're the people that know how to pull it out and give the playbooks to make it accessible. And people say things like, well, Dale, what if my ICP is all working from home or remote? Dale, what if my ICP doesn't even accept mail when it gets sent to their office? Like, yeah, those are great questions. Those are also the questions stopping you, because there are answers to these things and there is an outcome that can be achieved still through rebellion for people in those situations and circumstances. You shouldn't lose hope just because of the doubt that might be sifting through your mind from what you're hearing me say versus how it would apply to your business. I promise you there are ways to make it work. It's really like that part of you that questions it is the part that's causing you to continually fail over and over. Even when like one day you wake up and you're like, oh, we had 10% growth this year. It's like, but is that what you wanted? Is that what you wanted? How much effort and work did you put in to get 10%? How much money did you invest? How much have you lost? How much time with your kids, with your spouse, with your friends, with yourself? What have you lost just for 10%? What could you gain with rebellion?
Whoa. Man, hats off. I mean, this is one of the best, and I'm going to kind of share it with a lot of friends where we have these conversations, but we don't have a lot of people don't have the guts to make these calls and, kind of stand out. But I'm going to recommend everybody that, we've got to check out Sales Rebellion, and, look out for your programs and the community. And I think I'm going to do that. But thank you so much for sharing it all with us. And I think you didn't hold back on this, and thank you so much for that.
Cheers.
Really appreciate it, man.